What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, we're talking transfer tips for game week 27. Do not panic. It isn't just free hits this week. I've got the rest of you covered. No worries at all. So if you do enjoy it, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. We're going to talk about Weghorst. Already had over 60,000 transfers in, even though he's got to play again, right? So he could get injured in the second game of game week 26, but hopefully not. And obviously he's popular because he's got a double game week in game week 27. Now, I think, to a certain extent, I maybe got it a little bit wrong with him. Now, to be honest, he was in my January transfer window video. I said he was the most exciting pick. As soon as Burnley got a double in 27, I said he'd probably be my captain. So I haven't underrated his potential for scoring FPL points. But one other thing I did on my wildcard, the reason I kind of liked wildcard free hit and then obviously get your team back afterwards, was that you didn't have to hold any Burnley players. Now, to be honest, I still stand by that. I don't think I want 3 Burnley players going forward necessarily, but I think Weghorst is definitely someone that you can hold on to, and I think I'd probably look to bring him in sooner rather than later because, one, he's only 6.5 million, so he's cheap in a forward line where they're not really performing right now. I know Lacazette and Jimenez, who are popular on wildcards, got assists. They might get more returns, and they've got double game weeks coming up, which is fine. But at some point, they're going to need to be downgraded, I would say, to put money back into midfield or back into defence. And for 6.5 million, or 6.5 million, if I could say it correctly, Weghorst looks really good. So if you're thinking about bringing him in, I wouldn't really second guess it. I think he's probably the best captain option this week. Okay, Chelsea at home is not ideal, but then he's got Brentford, which is a good fixture. So if you've got a good squad, you could potentially bench him against Chelsea. And then if West Ham beat Southampton, I know there's like lots of ifs here, but if West Ham beat Southampton in the FA Cup, which they may or may not do, right? Southampton are playing well at the moment. Then that that Southampton game in game week 30 could be on as well. And okay, then he's got Man City, but the fixtures afterwards are pretty good. And obviously, you know, a 6.5 million forward is not necessarily someone that you want to, you know, or a spot in your team that you want to be transferring in and out all the time. So I think afterwards, if you look at it, Norwich, West Ham away, Wolves and Watford, they're not perfect fixtures, but they're pretty good. And obviously, if you're wildcarding later on, then fair enough, you can make that decision then. But for those of you that have used a wildcard, I would strongly think about having him in your side because you can just carry him forward. And also, Burnley have still got 2 more fixtures to rearrange. So at some point, Aston Villa away and Everton at home are going to get put into this set of fixtures they've got. So I really like him. I mean, there is a lot of games for Burnley at the moment. Obviously, they've got the double in 26 and the double in 27. But I think he has to be played. Burnley are going to possibly be in the relegation battle for the rest of the season. They need him in the team. I don't see him getting rested as long as he's fit. He may or may not have penalties. We'll have to wait and see when he gets one. His numbers are already good. His numbers at previous teams have been good as well. The fixtures are decent. I think he's a good buy. Like I said, I don't think you necessarily want 3 Burnley players for a long period of time, but Weghorst is okay to hold in my eyes. So I wanted to talk about Raphinha because a lot of people own him. I've talked about him a lot. I put him in my wildcard side. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about bringing him in soon, but are maybe a little bit skeptical about doing it now because he did get hooked at 45 minutes in the game before the last one, and obviously against Man United, he didn't start. And I got to be honest, I was surprised. That was a massive, massive call from Bielsa, right? He might have not played well recently. Maybe behind the scenes there's something going on. I don't know. But when you're Leeds, there's no disrespect, but Raphinha is just a level above most of their players. I found it surprising that he didn't start, but so be it, right? He came on, got the goal, they got to 2-2, and obviously we know what happened after that. So you've got to imagine going forward, we're going to see him, you know, lose minutes less and less, right? And obviously, with a lot of players, especially when they got another game this week, you don't have to make big decisions, right? You can just wait and see. So if he starts in the Liverpool game, then he's probably okay going forward. I still rate him as an option at 6.5 million. Now, when I wildcarded recently, and a lot of people were looking at the same, some people went for Coutinho over Raphinha. I actually still think Raphinha is the better option moving forward, right? He's a little bit cheaper. Up until this point, he's been absolutely nailed for minutes, like 90 minutes pretty much every single week. And if we see that against Liverpool, then I'd be okay bringing him in against Spurs, or you could delay the decision until game week 28 if you want to. While Bamford's out, he's also got penalties as well. His own personal numbers are still pretty good, 0.47 expected goal involvement per 90 minutes. He's got the double in 28. Leicester are conceding goals. I don't think Villa at home is that bad of a fixture either. Then it's Norwich. Then they got a fixture in game week 30. Then they got Southampton. Then they got Watford. Like, it just looks pretty good for Leeds. And don't get me wrong, I know that Watford, etc., are starting to maybe defend a little bit better, but I think Leeds are the kind of team that will just absolutely go for it and be able to score. And the fixtures kind of just stay pretty good up until that kind of Watford game. Then they get a bit more difficult. And to be fair, Leeds don't have currently any other fixtures to rearrange. And I don't think they will, to be honest, but we'll have to wait and see. So I think the longer you wait to get him in, the worse of an option he's going to become. So if you're looking at like game week 30, 31 to bring him in, it's probably not worth it. But as long as he starts that Liverpool game and or the Spurs game, if you want to delay the decision a little bit longer, I think owning him from 28 to 32, 5 game weeks where he's got really good fixtures, definitely plays in 30, and the double in 28, I still think he's a pretty good transfer in. And I think those of us that own him, we shouldn't be panicking just yet. Did we get a little bit lucky to get the goal when he didn't even start the game? Possibly, but that's what we know he can do. He's always the one that's going to step up in that Leeds team. So no panic just yet. Keep an eye on what happens on Liverpool. I've still got faith in him. I still don't think for 6.5 million there's many better midfielders in FPL right now. So Watkins is a bit of an interesting one because I think it's a little bit of a tricky spot for owners because it's not 100% guaranteed that he doesn't get his spot back because it's not like Villa did well against Watford. In terms of the result, anyway, obviously they lost 1-0. They probably should have scored in that game. But we don't know if he's going to get his place back against Brighton. And if he doesn't, he's obviously a doubt for the game week 28 double as well. So my first instinct is that he's probably got to be sold, to be honest. Like I'm looking back at his fixtures from recently. Now, obviously, for those of you that have watched the channel for a while, you'll know that I bought Pookie in this week. And a lot of people bought in Watkins, even though he was never in my plans. I stand by that. He got a goal and assist, and everyone started raving about him. He's literally done nothing since. No goals, no assists. And look, Chelsea and Man United, you could put down as tough fixtures maybe, but Villa did score twice in the Man United game. But then it's been Everton, Leeds, Newcastle, no points. He's come off before 80 minutes a couple of times there. And as a lot of Villa fans were kind of saying before this game, there was rumours that he was going to be dropped, and he was dropped for Ings. Now, he did come on for 32 minutes, so he might come back in, but I think he's a pretty good sell, to be honest. Like, if you're not sure about his minutes, okay, he's got the double, but then the fixtures are pretty tough. Now, I know that Villa play in game week 30, which is handy, but if you don't know if he's going to play, I think it's probably time to sell him. Weghorst, who I've already spoken about, if you're looking to bring him in, you save a bit of money, over 1 million, and you get a player with a double game week this week. So if you don't get the double in 28, it doesn't matter because you get the extra fixture this week instead. The only real advantage to me that Watkins has over Weghorst is that he plays in game week 30 guaranteed, but there is a chance that Weghorst will end up playing in there, and at least he is actually nailed, whereas Watkins right now isn't. So it's a tough one. If managers wanted to hold him for this week, I can see why they would, but for anyone not using a free hit, especially if you've got 3 Liverpool players, you're probably already worried about, if a player misses out, you've got no bench option. So I think he could be sold. Weghorst is probably top of the list. If you want someone with another double game week, like Watkins has, and plays in 30, then Jimenez is probably the easy straight swap. And they're probably the two that I would look at, depending on how much money you've got to spend and stuff like that. Broja, for example, could be an option to bring in. No double game week, but will play the whole way through, and Southampton have good fixtures. So they're probably the 3 I'd look at. Weghorst, if you want to captain this week. Jimenez, if you want good fixtures all the way along, or Broja instead. But I've got to be honest, unless I had really pressing issues elsewhere, I think I'd probably sell Watkins this week. So obviously a lot of us were impressed by Spurs against Man City. Like, Man City did have a lot of the ball, but when Spurs finally got it, they did play pretty well, especially Harry Kane. So Harry Kane and Son are both options. To be honest, I wouldn't have needed a win against Man City. I would have been looking to bring them in anyway. Leeds away just looks like such a good fixture. Everton at home in 28 is decent as well. And then they have the double game week. Now, don't get me wrong, Man United away and Brighton away is not necessarily like an outstanding double game week like Salah has this week, obviously, with Norwich and Leeds at home, but it's still an extra fixture. We've just seen what they did to Man City, right? And look, we shouldn't read a huge amount into that, but there's nothing to say they can't score against both United and Brighton. And then the fixtures are really good afterwards. So again, a lot of this is going to come down to your chip strategy and how you're going to deal with game week 30. So you might not be in a position where you can afford to bring in a Spurs player because they probably won't play West Ham in game week 30. I think Southampton would have to beat West Ham in the FA Cup, and Spurs would have to lose in the FA Cup to Middlesbrough for that to happen. So it seems unlikely that will. So he's probably going to have a blank in game week 30. But if you can carry him through, he looks excellent, right? And I know, when it comes to FPL these days, I do look a lot at expected data. You know that, right? I'm not saying it's the be all and end all of how to make decisions, but it's how I like doing them. But even forgetting about that, ever since Son has come into this league, I don't really remember massive gaps in him just not scoring or not assisting, right? There was a time early on when he wasn't completely nailed, and if you got him in at the right time, when he was getting minutes, he was great. But these days, he's as nailed as they come for pretty much any team. Still 6.3 points per match, right? 2 assists against Man City. He just ticks over all the time, no matter what the formation is, no matter what the manager is, what the game is. He always just seems to find a way to get points over a period of time. So I really like him. I still think Kane is an excellent option, right? I've said before, there's lots of stats going around on Twitter. Kane is shooting a lot more now under Conte than he was before. You could say he's back. Maybe it's a fitness thing. Maybe it's just playing under Conte. Maybe he's got a bit more confidence right now, or whatever it is. He is playing better right now. He is shooting more as well. He too is a great option. Now, ideally, you could have both, because if I show you the fixtures, like Spurs running for the rest of the season is just crazy good, right? And so for those of us especially that aren't looking to wildcard after game week 30, okay, he's going to miss this West Ham game, but then it's Newcastle, Villa, Brighton at home, Brentford, Leicester's not a bad fixture at all. Liverpool away in game week 36 is probably the worst one. And then they've got Burnley and Norwich, and they still have an Arsenal at home game as well to kind of rearrange. So if you're looking for someone for a long-term pick that's got good fixtures and a double game week, I wouldn't look much further than Son or Kane right now. I think fitting both of them in when we still need Salah in our teams is pretty difficult. And for me, for my team, I just found that fitting Son in was easier than Kane. But if you wanted to go for Kane instead of Son, I don't think there's a massive problem with that. His numbers are looking good as well. Okay, he's a little bit more expensive, but he does have penalties too. So I don't think it's a bad call. I'd love to see a team that's got both with Salah, but I feel like it's just too many sacrifices elsewhere. After game week 30, maybe it'll be possible. But I think right now, you just can't get rid of your Liverpool players and stuff like that because they've got a double game week as well. So for those of you that are bringing in Son, 75,000 managers already. Let's hope he doesn't get injured in the game against Burnley. And then Leeds as a single game week looks great. Then it's the double, and then it's just a great run of fixtures pretty much for the rest of the season. Just bear in mind that in game week 30, he probably will not play. Let me know in the comments below who you are looking to bring in and take out this week. Watkins owners, what are you doing? Because ultimately, you don't necessarily need to sell him. But I think if you've got no other pressing issues, you definitely could. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and I'll be back again tomorrow with more videos.